Thursday, June 20th, 2019. And this is, oh, you're going to do this to me. Where are you? Oh, there it is. The Pro and the Con Show. And I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Yeah, the slide index there for a second. Anyway, so yeah, my name is Michael James Ott, and the intent of the show is to talk about news and focus on the actual news, which is the who, the what, the where, and the when. And try to encourage everybody to look beyond or filter out all of the rhetoric that's out there, which is the opinion, the appraisals, the prognostications, which ultimately aren't the news. It's not the who, the what, the where, and the when. And so I'm encouraging everybody to form your own opinions, and especially by looking at multiple sources of information, sources of information that you know don't necessarily often agree with your common stance on things. So if you're generally a conservative person or a Republican or some mix thereof, you should be looking at some liberal streams of information just to balance the coin, so to speak. So, and I've said many times that, you have your life and you go through it, and, born where you're born, raised where you're raised, education, experiences, right to this very moment, and now you're looking at this video and you see an image of George Washington on this dollar coin. And I do the same thing, and I see an image of the Statue of Liberty. And you look at this and you say, well, Mr. Ott, you are crazy. That is Mr. Washington. And I say, you are crazy. That is the Statue of Liberty. And we can start screaming at each other at that point, which is where we are, unfortunately, in this country on many issues. And the reality is that because I was born where I was born, and I'm sitting where I'm sitting after education and experiences and all this other stuff, and right up to this very moment, I see the Statue of Liberty. And that is because the coin has the Statue of Liberty on it. Now, this is the coin. This is the whole coin. This is the truth of the coin. It is the whole truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. So that's, my personal experience is that people that I was at loggerheads with and really was astounded by their positions on certain issues, come to find out if we would spend the time to sit down and talk to each other and understand the other side of things, where they're coming from, why they're thinking the way that they are, and if they will take the time to do the same for us or for me, then you come closer and closer to an understanding that you're probably not as far apart and nearly as far apart as you used to be. And that's this whole thing behind negotiations. It's not the Mr. Trump form of negotiations where you run around and deceive people and try to trick them into coming to some kind of position that's of benefit to you, buyer beware kind of situation. It's more of, well, this is really what's going on from my side, and let me hear from your side, and let's try to come to some reasonable place in the middle. So the other thing that I wanted to say tonight is that if you look through some of my information, if you go to my website, ottin2020.org, you'll see that I'm offering to serve as President of the United States. Now, I want to make sure that the subtlety is not so subtle here. I'm offering to serve as President of the United States. I'm not running for the office. Now, some of you are, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? Well, the difference is that, you serve you serve and you're offering to serve. That's like joining the military. You're serving your country. You don't have to spend $500 million, and you don't have to shake the hands of 100 million people or 200 million people to get them to vote you into something, and you certainly wouldn't go forward with that. But that's really one of the fundamental reasons why I'm running as an independent, not running, offering to serve. So yeah, I just did it. I'm offering to serve as an independent, because actually this is what we should have. And if you watch past videos, I talked about having a 28th Amendment to the Constitution, where we basically abolish the party politics and get all the money out and streamline the process, and we call up potential enlistees just like we do in the jury pool. And so I'm trying to be, without any of that new system in place, I'm trying to be that independent candidate that's just offering to serve. Just offering to serve. Not running, not wanting all of the, I don't give a damn about living in the White House or flying on Air Force One or, any of the other so-called trappings of the office. I don't care about those things. I just think that we ought to have someone that truly wants to serve the American people. And I will tell you with absolute certainty that I am one of those people. I want to just serve the American people. I don't care about being reelected. I want things to be better. I want us to talk about these issues in a more holistic way and spend some time really talking about the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the for and against on some of these issues, and thereby really advance them. We could be doing so much better than we are. We could be accomplishing so much more than we are. So many of the complaints that you and I have, the average American has about how our society is at the moment and how our government is not serving us. All of these things could be resolved to our great satisfaction if we had two things. One, at least one person in government, and the President of the United States would seem to be the office with the most potential influence. One person that's truly just facilitating a discussion of issue after issue after issue after issue, holistically, openly, with no malice or forethought, just with the intent to understand and to have compassion for the different viewpoints on each of these singular issues that we struggle with. And then you, the American public, you have to be involved. You have to, if we were to have the right kind of president in office, and they were holding these monthly issue panels and open forums, and then discussion of potential law and all this other stuff, and just open, transparent discussions, well, there's going to be a lot of people that would be opposed to this because it's new, and quite frankly, they are in the offices they're in, and I'm convinced that there's some significant percentage of senators and representatives at the federal level, for example, and at state levels, that are there where they are because they are trying to accumulate wealth, influence, and power. And so they're going to try to hold on to that. And the only way for us to, quickly overcome that would be to, very strongly communicate that serving the people is going to be fully and completely supported, and not serving the people is going to result in a furious electorate who just simply won't stand for it. So peaceful, but millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people in the streets shaking their fists at any politician that isn't going to obviously and transparently just try to support the typical American citizen. And we could, so I've been around. I was born in 1961, so I'm 58 years old now. And I was quite young back in the late 60s and early 70s, but I remember the riots around racial relations. And, the leadership of Martin Luther King and several of the other people from the African American community, who basically finally, and it's been going on. I don't want to say it was like suddenly then, but they just said, okay, we've had enough. We've had enough. And they came up with a systematic way to antagonize segregation and to force themselves into the national news on a regular basis by going to the streets. And yes, there was some violence, and I am in no way advocating violence, but there was a whole lot of peaceful protests, a lot of very peaceful, meaningful, influential protests, marches, and so on, thousands, hundreds of thousands strong in some cases. And it was all, this has to end. We, separate but equal is not working. It is not fair, and this must end. And the way I feel about it, and my sense is, as I talk to people, my neighbors, my friends, and whatnot, my sense is that most Americans are the same way. We're getting totally fed up with the way things have been, and quite frankly, it's our fault. It's my fault, certainly. And if you're like me, who was pretty apathetic for a lot of years, what I call elect and forget. Well, we got. It's a tribute to the system. It's a tribute to the form of government that we have, that it went as well as it did, given the level of apathy that so many of us, were bringing to the table. And so, if you're not happy at the moment, and you think you want to change things, well, guess what? You have to get involved. And I'm not talking about 40 hours a week or anything like that, but an hour a week. 10 hours a month, five hours a month to get involved. This elect and forget thing is not working. So understand who your representatives are, get their numbers on the speed dial, pay attention to what kind of legislation they're working on and how they're voting for it, and understand how that aligns with what you think should be done. Make sure you're listening to both sides, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, and the for and against. And if someone is only presenting this one-sided argument, or no argument at all, just stating, like Mr. Trump often does, this is the way we're going to do it, well, then get on the stick. Understand the issues, do the research and understand it, and then form your own opinion about what is reasoned and reasonable, and then start advocating for it. And again, I'm not talking about 40 hours a week. I'm talking about a handful of hours a month. We can do this, and if you truly want to improve things, we have to do it. And so I am, again, offering to serve as President of the United States. I have the official paperwork in. And if elected, I will do exactly as I say I'm going to do. But you know, it won't mean a thing. I'm one person out of 340 million, and it won't mean a thing unless the rest of you are basically in the streets. You're going to have to really be advocates for your own citizenship, and your neighbors and your friends and your family. You're going to have to be advocates for yourselves. And if you're not, there's an old saying, you know, if you want it done right, do it yourself. There you go. You're going to have to get involved. And until you do, you get what you get. Until you get involved, you get what you get. And there you are. So I personally, I'm spending some hundreds of hours a year making this short broadcast, putting it on Facebook Live and on my YouTube channel. You know, getting on Twitter and trying to, you know, get people to look at these kinds of things and address the issues and start, you know, looking at issues from pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. Encouraging people to open their hearts and their minds to the whole truth, which isn't just what comes to them from their favorite stream of information. It's the opposing views as well. And understand what is factual, who, what, where, when, and what is just contrived commentary and bias. Well, running out of time again for the show, the Pro and Con Show. Thursday, June 20th, 2019. I'm Michael James Ott again, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon. And until then, bye for now.